Alright, this is the one I just cut, and it actually looks pretty darn good, I think, especially compared to the ones that were already here. You know, this one's kind of funky shaped, and then this larger one back here, come on, work with me light, there you go. You know, this one's all chewed up on the edges, so I think this one I did is actually okay. Still have to drill the holes around the perimeter, but I'll do that in a little bit. Right now my focus is on this hole actually, because I think I need to enlarge this. What I'm trying to figure out still is whether I'm going to coat the inside of this tank with epoxy or not. On this trip, my goal is just to cut whatever holes necessary, because you know that's going to make all kinds of metal shavings in the tank, and then on my next trip I'll have the option of coating the inside with epoxy. I'm still torn whether I'm going to do that or not, but either way I think enlarging this inspection port is a benefit because it gives better access to the tank, and if I do decide to do epoxy, then I have the access necessary to do that. What I need to figure out though is how large I can make this hole, because I have a baffle here and I have this fitting here. If I make the hole bigger, I'm probably going to have to move it off to the side a little bit, but I want to be sure that I want to cut these holes out. So I just need to do some measuring and see if I have enough room to install a larger inspection port off center that would basically, you know, take these old holes out as well. So that's what I'm trying to figure out right now. Okay, so I think I have a plan. So using this 6-inch inspection port, the one that usually covers this 4-inch hole as a guide. See, let me show you what I'm talking about here. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Hard to do with one hand. Alright, see that? This is a 6-inch inspection port. So if I were to cut the hole this big, enlarging that 4-inch hole to 6 inches, what I would then need is an 8-inch deck plate. If you can imagine, if this was the hole, I would need a plate like this to overlap it by at least an inch. So I would then need an 8-inch deck plate. Keep that in mind. So visualizing this, if I were to actually cut the hole that big and kind of put it off center to cover up the holes that are already cut, I would have about 1.5 inches here and 1.5 inches here for the larger deck plate. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to enlarge this hole to this size, 6 inches, and then build an 8-inch deck plate to cover it up. Alright, I just drew the mark there for the new hole that I'm going to cut, and I'm about to rattle my teeth out again with this Sawzall and cut one more hole. There you go. 2 inspection ports cut. So the tool of choice here, well, maybe not choice, the tool of necessity has been this Sawzall with a metal cutting blade. I'm not positive if I could recommend this or not. I mean, it's gotten the job done, but it's been tough. With the width of this blade, it doesn't really go around. I mean, it's meant to cut straight lines, you know. So cutting a curve with that thing has been difficult. I've had to take him, you know, basically dissect these aluminum discs in chunks. And man, it has been tough. Now the reason I didn't use a jigsaw is because I really needed some kind of tool that would go vertical down into this work area, because there's just not so much room to run a jigsaw, you know, around these circles. So I needed something that would basically plunge in and cut. And boy, this jigsaw, it's like, it would be cut really good for a few seconds there, and then all of a sudden it would kind of bind up, and that, I don't know, 750 RPM that the blade is normally doing would be transferred to, you know, the handle. And then that would be transferred to my arm, and then that would be transferred to my brain. So my brain would be rattling at 750 RPMs there for a second till I let off the trigger. So, whew, it's been rough, but all right, we got the job done. Alright, so with my new freshly fabricated scrubber here, I'm going to try to get down into the corners of the tank where it's still pretty cruddy down there. You know, I've got most of the flat surface areas fairly clean, but now I need to try to get those corners taken care of. So, alright, let's see how good the Scrubber 2.0 does. Alright, it is ridiculously hard to film myself scrubbing through a 10-inch hole at the bottom of a tank that's 5 feet down, so let's just do a before and after for the Scrubber 2.0. How about that? Is that okay? Yeah, okay. Before. And after. Alright, so the Scrubber 2.0 worked pretty well, but now I got to get behind this pickup tube here, and I'm going to have to... Scrubber 2.0 can't fit back there, but it did a pretty good job at the rest of it. But I need to get kind of down in the corners a little deeper. Alright, this should reach into those difficult to access corners. Oh my gosh. Alright, and here is after using the brush on a stick. So it is getting much more clean now. Not looking too bad. All the sections look pretty similar. I just keep showing you that front one because that's what I've shown you before. Yeah. Alright, well, a little bit of time has passed between the last clip you saw and this one, but I think I'm pretty much done with these tanks for today. Here is why. So I pretty much have them as cleaned out as I can get them for now. The next step in the tank, because I think that I have decided that I'm going to go ahead and seal them internally with some kind of, you know, high-end epoxy sealant. So with that being the case, the next real step is to sand and scuff up the inside of the tank so that the epoxy can adhere to it, and then do a really thorough cleaning. However, I don't want to do a real thorough cleaning yet because I have not yet drilled these holes where the inspection plates are going to go. And I don't want to drill those yet until I have, you know, the actual plate in hand. This is the smaller one that used to go here, but once I have the actual plate, I can lay it here and then use the plate as a template to drill really accurate holes. So I don't want to drill those holes until I have the plates in hand. So basically this is as far as I can go on this project for now until I have the inspection plates and until I have the epoxy and whatever supplies I need to prep the inside. So, now when I said there was a big gap between those two clips, what I've been doing in the meantime was actually working a little bit on another project that I didn't really intend to film. I don't film everything because, you know, I tried to do the more interesting stuff. However, this kind of turned into something that's more interesting than I thought it was going to. So what I've been doing was I removed the toilet from in here because we're installing a composting head. I removed the plumbing because, again, composting head. And then, look at that monster. I started to remove the holding tank. So there's where it used to be, there in the V-berth. And I quickly discovered that it does not fit through these doorways. So this doorway here is 17 inches, that one is 19 inches, and the tank is 22. And even probably more like 25 with the fittings on top of it. So long story short, I'm gonna have to cut this sucker to get it through the doorways. I'm probably gonna cut this end off right here to make it fit. It basically tapers from back to front, so it kind of, you know, what you're looking at is the big wide end here. So cutting off this low section should get it through the door. I am not gonna do that right now. But I just wanted to share with you kind of, you know, what is coming up next. Wow, holy moly. Alright, good morning folks. And in this episode of Boat Jobs That I Dread, I'm going to have to cut the bottom end off of a used holding tank. Oh boy. Now, there is potentially a silver lining here. I was actually told by the previous owner of this boat that this holding tank had never been in use. Of course, the previous owner of the boat is like the third owner, I think, that I know of. So what about those guys? Did they use the holding tank? I don't know. The good news is, you know, banging on it, it sounds, you know, pretty hollow and got a nice resonant, you know, hollow sound to it. So that would suggest that it's not completely caked up with residue. But I can only do what I can do. And what I'm gonna do to prevent dew, okay, I'm gonna stop that train of thought. I'm gonna actually tape some trash bags together and kind of make this makeshift tarp. I don't have another tarp around here, and since this is just a short time use thing anyways, I'm gonna make a trash bag tarp. I'm gonna drill some holes in this sucker, and I'm gonna start chopping with the Sawzall. So that's what's going on here. Okay, there you have it, one trash bag tarp. That's a 2-ply trash bag tarp, approximately 6x6 in dimensions. So yeah, I think that should probably get the job done. Hey, be honest, is this the first time you've seen anybody put a tarp together with trash bags? It's a first for me. Yeah, all right, hopefully it works. Hopefully it's unnecessary, but if it is necessary, hopefully it works. Alright, the makeshift trash bag tarp is down. Now I have to do some measuring, figure out exactly where I need to make my cuts in order for this thing to fit through the door on the first try. Back for another installment of Ben's weird boat contraptions. I had to fabricate this this longer square out of a little, you know, speed square. And I'm going to use this to lay it on top of the tank. Oh, and here's a key component here. I went ahead and marked the distance so that the distance between this upright and that mark is the same from the top of the tank to this line. This is where I'm going to make my cut. The whole purpose of this ridiculous contraption is to extend the line around the bottom of this very oddly shaped tank so that I can make a good clean cut to basically shorten the entire tapered tank down to no more than about 13 inches or so, so that these pipes can clear. I want to leave those pipes on so I can use them as kind of a handle. So anyways, now I can put this little piece of metal on here at the mark I made, and then scribe my marks going around the tank. Rocket science. Okay. Here's what I mean by all of that. Alright, now I was able to basically carry this line all the way down to there using the top of the tank as my reference point. Okie dokie. Here we go. All right, so I'm done with this trip. I'm just kind of cleaning up, wrapping things up, moving things out to the car. But it's been a very productive trip. But it's at that weird stage where even though you're working really hard, it's hard to see the results of your effort because you're really tearing things apart instead of putting things together. But one thing I'm doing in order to stay productive at this monumental task of refitting this boat is I'm taking certain things home with me. On this trip, I'm going to be taking the prop shaft home to get that all cleaned up and polished. I'm taking the propeller home to get all of the old anti-fouling paint off of that and get it ready to go. And, oh, I'm taking this, can't really see it too much back there, but this particular board, it's kind of cracked up. It has a piece that's sticking up. It's a toe stubber, so I want to take that home and get it fixed up too. So that's a way I'm going to stay productive and continue working on the boat even though I'm not at the boat. Yeah. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.
So thank you for watching the video, and we'd like to take a moment to thank all of our new patrons.
So new patrons, we'd like to welcome Tom and Chuck. Thank you for deciding to be patrons for our channel. It really helps us out in a big way, so we really appreciate that.
We also recently received a PayPal donation from Sam at SVEOT. Thank you so much for your contribution.
We also got some things sent from our Amazon wish list.
The majority of this stuff came from a guy named Kyle, so thank you so much, Kyle. And in fact, there's one more thing that I forgot. Stand by. I got this life jacket thing. This is to keep me alive whenever I'm spearfishing. If something weird happens, you can pull this cord, and this thing goes, and then you float to the surface, and yeah. So somebody's looking out for me. Thank you, Kyle. In addition to that, Kyle also sent the shop towels, vacuum bags, paint rollers, 2 funnels, and a cutlass bearing. Kyle, thank you so much, man. This is a huge, huge help.
So we also received this gel coat from Mike and Sherry. Thank you.
We don't know who it came from, but someone sent us this foam roll for our boat cushions.
For our boat cushions, yep. And finally, we were also sent this PSS dripless shaft seal. That is amazing. This came from a fella named Barry. Thank you very much, Barry. One more thing we forgot about. We were also sent one more jar of this pigment. This is white pigment that we're going to use to coat the inside of the fuel tanks with epoxy. Thank you very much. I don't know who sent it to us, but we really appreciate it. All right, so we are just overwhelmed with, you know, the amount of support we're getting. All this stuff off of Amazon. You know, it's encouraging to know that you guys kind of have our back and want to help us out. So we really, really appreciate it, right, Molly?
Yes.
I think that's it. That wraps up this video. We hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for your support, generosity. It means a lot. It really helps us out in a big way. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you next week.
See you next week.
See you next week.
Good job, Molly.